Hello, everyone, and welcome to the EJ Sports Podcast. It's your boy E with my boy Jay here.
What's up?
And today we're going to do a World Cup qualifier sort of episode. We're going to be talking about the two teams in what we believe as the two teams that are very close to us as Mexican Americans, and as the World Cup being in Mexico, US, and Canada. We want to talk about both the Canadian, American, and Mexican odds of getting out of a potential group and possibly how far they can go. Now, right now, when it comes to Canada, what do you think is their possibility of making it to the round of 16? If not the round of 16, just making it out of the group. What do you think, Jay?
Depends who they're going to be facing. If they have two good quality teams, probably they're not going to make it. They will have probably one draw and two losses.
See, I agree with you for the simple fact that when it comes to the Canadian team, I don't know how much of their team is fully a team that can compete. If we're talking about, let's just say, a group of death situation like the U.S. was in 2014. Like, I don't know if they can compete in that sort of group situation. They could get lucky. I have seen some of the teams that have qualified, like Jordan, Uzbekistan. Maybe if they get teams of those nature, as much as I don't want to disrespect those teams, if you get that sort of team, maybe you could possibly look at qualifying. But I agree, it all depends on their team and the way they mess or in the way that they function when it comes to a team mentality. I have confidence in Alphonso Davies. His attacking prowess is strong. Obviously, the one thing that's very, very critical about Alphonso Davies, which a lot of people also say, is that his defensive issues could come up very soon. I don't know how much Jonathan David, his impact with the goals is going to be. And obviously, their goalkeeper situation is not the best. I don't think they've had a clear number one. Or if they had a clear number one, I don't think he's strong enough compared to the other CONCACAF teams that have already qualified, like the U.S. and like Mexico. Now, we're going to go into the U.S. The way that Mauricio Pochettino, the way that his team is set up. Again, we're recording this September 6th, right before the Mexico game, but right after the U.S. versus Korea game, South Korea. How do you think they looked? Because for my opinion, it showed the weaknesses that the U.S. has had for a very long time. And I don't know if Mauricio Pochettino could really fix those weaknesses. What do you think?
It's going to be pretty difficult. I know depends of who they're going to face, but I feel like they will make it to the next round. They're not going to make it first. They're going to make it second.
Ooh, second. So you're predicting them still to be strong enough to get out of the group, but not as strong as other people think.
That is correct. And I saw the second half of the game. Their problem is they have a lot of chances, but they cannot score.
I agree. As much as Diego Luna, he's a great prospect. As much as Captain America Christian Pulisic is always an option there. One big thing which I've been saying for a long time, Matt Turner cannot be your number one goalie. I don't think he is a number one goalie, and if you're not playing Matt Turner, who else are you playing?
They don't have no one. They just have MLS goalkeepers that they're not good quality goalkeepers. They haven't had a Tim Howard or Brad Guzman for a long time.
That's exactly what I was going to say. When it comes to the goalkeeping situation, their goalkeeper for the game against Canada is Matt Freese. He is the NYFC goalkeeper. He's New York City FC goalkeeper. He's 27. He has only played in the MLS system, or at least the American system. In my opinion, he's not good enough to be anywhere near the U.S. number one.
The problem about this is that some of these players, they're not used to with the pressure. And half of the players that are in the U.S. team play in Europe, and they know what the pressure is. And Matt Turner, he's just been benched in Arsenal and several other teams.
Nottingham Forest, he was also benched there. Crystal Palace, he was benched. Obviously for Arsenal, he was benched. Like that's what I think, that when it comes to the whole U.S. setup, their defense could be solid enough. What I mean by solid enough is that I have trust in Richardson. I have trust in Serginho Dest, at least their European pedigree. I have trust in Robinson, the West Ham left back. That second center back is crucial. I don't know who they could put in. Some of the people who they did put in, like Tim Ream, he's super old. Tim Ream is not up to the quality. He's 37. I don't think he is a U.S. number one quality now when it comes to a defensive option.
He could go, but just to be in the bench, but give like positive morale to the young talent and the rest of the U.S. team.
No, I 100% agree. And for me, as somebody who will support both the U.S. and Mexico when it comes to this World Cup, again, I want both of them to succeed. I want both of them to show the power of not just the MLS, but the U.S. players internationally in Europe, as well as the Mexican players from the Liga MX to the ones in Europe as well. But when I see this sort of teams that they're pulling out, yes, you could say this international, week sort of weekend we're talking about here, they could just be players that they're trying to, prove to see if they're even worthy of possibly making the World Cup squad. But again, South Korea itself isn't a strong team, at least as not as the pedigree of the players they brought in, the U.S. national team. They shouldn't be losing these sort of games very quickly. Now, when it comes to the midfield as well, you have players like I said, Diego Luna. You have players like Berhalter. You have players like Adams. Do you think that's a strong enough midfield to control a game if they're going against, a possibility of someone like a Nigeria, which is pretty physical, pretty fast? Somebody you could say of like a Colombia, who is also very physical when it comes to that midfield and when they're controlling. Do you think the midfield they could possibly come in? And I know there's other midfielders they haven't brought in for this international weekend. We could talk about like Tillman,
because some of those players are injured.
True. But do you think that midfield, or at least the possibility of the midfield they could have for the World Cup, do you think that's a strong enough midfield to control games?
Yeah, they're in between. I don't think so.
No?
Nah.
And honestly, I agree. For the simple fact that the players you're playing aren't really, you could say, the pedigree of these other midfield options they could possibly have. They're good midfielders. I'll be honest with you, they're good players. When it comes to Tyler Adams, I liked him when he was in Bournemouth. He's still in Bournemouth still, but I liked him when he was still playing regular times in Bournemouth, when he was in, I believe, in the Red Bull system. But I don't think he's that physically dominant player that could pass the ball in, ping those plays. I still want to see that from him. And also another big thing, when it comes to the U.S. national team, their striker. Now, Josh Sargent is their number one striker for now. Their number two is the English player converted into a U.S. player, Balogun, playing in Monaco. For me, they are nowhere near the caliber of players that were Donovan, Clint Dempsey, these sort of... I'll say this, and I'll to my own horn here, being a Earthquakes fan, they're nowhere near a Wondolowski. So in my opinion, that's another major point that the U.S. national team is going to struggle with, is the whole striker option. Yes, and like you said, and you brought up a great point, they can create the plays, but no one can finish them. And for me, that's a big thing. Do you agree with that?
I agree. And also, they have to start developing good forwards now, because with those two, I don't think they're not going anywhere if they cannot score.
I do not believe they're U.S. national team quality.
Sorry, American fans, but they need to start developing more players, sending them to Europe, or at least making the MLS more stronger.
True, I believe that as well. Next thing, the Mexican national team. Again, we're recording this right before the game is supposed to start, but I'm going to be taking the previous games into consideration. This year, Mexico needs to prove that the 2022 World Cup was a fluke. They need to prove that we are here to make a statement. We'll always have it doesn't matter if it's in Mexico or if it's in the US, we'll have the advantage of the people. We need to put that now into proof. We need to show that it's truly our time to at least make it to that next game that we've always been saying. El quinto partido. That's the one thing we want.
Well, now they are going to.
But what we mean by the quinto partido, we don't mean by this now in the expanded rule. That means we need to go to the sexto partido. The sixth match. This is the point where Mexico needs to prove. And I'm not putting the pressure on someone like Raul Jimenez. He has proven now, since the head trauma, since his now resurgence coming back into Fulham in their system, he's proven with goals. Our defense is solid enough, and what I mean is that we need to make sure that Huescas is in the team. He's proven it in Copenhagen. He's proving it over there in Denmark. We need to make sure Johan Vasquez, the captain of Genoa, he needs to be there. The goalkeeper, and I will always say this, people could say it's biased because I'm an America fan, Malagon is number one. Yes, you could bring Ochoa. Yes, you could bring Rangel. You could bring Acevedo. You could bring Moreno. You could bring whoever you want. Malagon needs to be number one because he has shown it not just for the national team, but in big games of Liga MX. In finals, he has shown that he is a goalkeeper you could depend on, to somebody who could push the team forward. Now, the midfield and the wing play, that's where I believe our biggest issue is. Because as much as we could depend on the 16-year-old wonder kid Gilberto Mora, he's only 16. We need to make sure that Edson Alvarez is at his best as our captain, and we need to make sure that second midfielder is someone who could both go offensively but come back defensively. What do you think about that?
Good points and all that, but you're missing one more.
What is it?
They need to find two good players from the wings that they could actually center the ball to the forwards, and that's how the forwards could score.
You're 100% correct. Now, in my mind, the wingers should be Piojo Alvarado.
I disagree. Right.
I'm just saying as people who should be in the team. Not starting, but just in the team. Piojo Alvarado on the right. Chucky Lozano on the right. Alexis Vega on the left. Chino Huerta on the left.
I will get rid of El Piojo and put on Julian Quiñones.
See, in my mind, he's more of a striker that could shift left. So in my brain, he's more in the offensive side of things, not on the winger side. Now, you said you don't want El Piojo Alvarado. Is there a specific reason? Is it the way that he plays? Why?
There's several games that I've seen from the Mexican national team when he plays. He doesn't do one good center. He's like a second Uriel Antuna.
Now, I was going to suggest, if Antuna was at his best, would you put Antuna or would you put El Piojo?
I would put Antuna 100%.
Now, I'm going to give another option because he's actually been playing good for Tigres. El Factor Diego Lainez.
I completely forgot about him.
Do you think, I know you've been following Tigres, I know you've been following. Do you think he deserves to now have a spot again in the Mexican national team?
He actually does. And I actually feel bad for him that he wasn't in the list in 2022 just because the coach was, he was good when he was with Paraguay, Argentina, Barcelona, but with Mexico, he freaking gave up in 2020 on the team.
Yeah, no. I will say this.
He got rid of Santi Jimenez and Diego Lainez, and I need to say those two were the worst decisions that he ever made, and there's a reason why they didn't qualify to the to the fourth game just because of his idiocy of his mind.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I will say this, when it comes to El Tata, at the moment, and Jay could attest with me when he could confirm this, we did not like Osorio.
I'd rather had him on than Tata.
I will say this. Do you remember before Chile beat us? Do you remember us going to the camp where they're at? And we saw Osorio walk out. Do you remember the amount of boos that were thrown at him by other people?
Yes.
Now, who would you have preferred? Osorio or El Tata? Because for me, I would have preferred Osorio for that World Cup.
I would have kept Osorio. The main reason why they didn't keep him is just because of the higher-ups of the Mexican League.
That's the thing that I did not understand. This is the thing that we don't want to get into the whole political situation when it comes to that. We'll skip around that. Left back. Gallardo has that on lock. The issue is, if Gallardo gets hurt, there is no second. They tried it with Arteaga.
No, and they have one.
Who?
That guy from Ajax. No, not Ajax. ACR.
Oh.
What's his name?
Chavez?
Is it Chavez?
I believe it's Chavez. So you're telling me that Mateo Chavez. Yes,
there
Mateo Chavez. You're telling me that he should be above Gallardo? Or do you think that you need to wait?
If he gets injured or he gets a red card, yeah. Of course.
Because I will say this. We did see him play when Gallardo, I believe, was suspended. When we saw Mexico versus Honduras at Levi's. We saw Chavez play. We could tell, or at least I could tell, he was very inexperienced because he had very clear defensive lapse of judgment where the left side was very exposed. But I feel like he is somebody that they could develop into someone. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. But he will be a second best if the other left back is injured or has a red card.
If Mateo Chavez has a great season in the Eredivisie, do you think he deserves to be the number one ahead of Gallardo? Or you think Gallardo still, with his pedigree, deserves to be number one?
They will give him a last run, and that's going to be until 2030 that he's going to take over.
Okay. Guys, thank you so much for watching our video, listening to it on Spotify. Thanks for tuning into the pod. A quick update when it comes to us in the pod. If you do know, or if you don't know, I have a personal channel on YouTube. It is called It Is EG408. The link will be in the description. It basically shows and it vlogs what I did, and you can probably see Jay in the background if you can spot who he is, and basically shows what we did all over. Now, also, I do have an Instagram recently made. It is called It Is EG408. You'll be seeing the same sort of content on there as well. Thank you guys so much. Listen to the pod, like, subscribe, follow, leave a comment. If you have any suggestions, please do so. Thank you so much. See you guys.